how did you decide, like, when you were starting, when did you realize, like, okay, because in my if I think about a business, there's, like, certain things that kinda have to happen in order for it to be an actual business. So, like, if you're selling a service, for example, that could be a business, but adding in the layers of, okay, having an actual facility, like having a home base, having some tools at your disposal that are there where you kinda have a setup, that adds, like, a whole another layer of, okay, this is more like a business now
Yeah.
as opposed to going door to door selling, which is basically what
Yep.
most hockey schools do,
Yep.
right? It's like you go to this rink and then you go to that rink and then you go to this rink and you're trying to get kids
Websites now,
websites now. So at what point
social media now.
social media. So at what point did you see, okay, I can turn this into a business where I have a home base, like I'm established here and I can do this here. And then how did that transition now into where it is now? And how did you decide about like setting prices in order to get like business growth? Because really, like if you think of trainers, so if I rent the ice, it's like okay, ice here where we're at, ice is like $200 an hour. So it's like okay, my cost is basically $200. Like that's what my cost is, right? So if I'm by myself running the session, my cost is $200 and then I'm going to charge X amount an hour that I want, you know? So if that's what your business is, which a lot of trainers that is what it is, and then they got to pay $20 an hour to helpers or whatever, then that's different than having a facility, having a gym, having a whatever, and trying to make that grow over time with different types of programming within that. So when did you see that start to be a possibility? And then where is your mind at now with how that plays into the hockey school business thing? Because there's a lot of people that do this kind of stuff, right? So it's like I think it's a good discussion to have on what the reality is of trying to do it because I see it every summer. Sorry to go on a tangent, but I see it every summer with like guys that used to play, for example. And it's like, okay, they come and run skates because they can control the price. Basically, they want to just get free ice for themselves. And then if I can get X number of guys, it doesn't cost me $200 an hour. And those other players now think it's training. So I'm thinking of one, for example, where there's a guy that's local that plays, still plays. When he's here, he runs skates, and he gets a bunch of like higher end local guys to go skate, and he charges them to do that, and it basically turns into a break even where he's not really running a business, but it's he wants to still train. That guy could turn into a skills coach one day, and then try to do the same thing, but then realize, 3 years down the line, oh, it's actually harder to keep up with that over time because everyone does that. So how do you compete? So all those kinds of things that are playing into it. Maybe just thoughts on that whole
Yeah. So
situation.
when I started, as far as the price goes, I said, yeah, I had to make. I wanted to make a certain amount of money for per hour that I was on the ice. And that's all it was at that point. And I decided on the price based on not really not really. It wasn't like a really well thought out thing. It was more like I need that to. It's not worth my time to go and make $50, right? And the second part was is especially once I started going and realized very quickly that I could help someone, right? Not just run a skate. That's my point. Is not run a skate, and that was my intentions going in there. It wasn't just running a skate. Anybody can run a practice. Some are good, some are bad. Some guys can run a team practice better than a skills guy can. Some skills guys, some and vice versa, right? So you have an expertise in certain things, and mine was being able to work with groups, but individuals. And I always liked doing smaller groups, always until we did camps. So, anyways, I was doing that, and I saw a lot of like people starting to compete, and I always tried to stay a year or two or three or like just ahead of the curve as much as I can. So I would do a lot of research. I would look at different ways. Like, am I doing a good job? Am I teaching? Are they getting something out of it? Am I seeing improvement? And the answer was always yes. And then if I saw something that I didn't like, I would change it. We got to the point where it didn't matter anymore because people were going to go for the price or a new name or a new guy that came in town just to try. So you start fighting, not fighting with that, but it's if you start a hockey school tomorrow and you take 10 guys, you took 10 of my guys. That's the bottom line. If 3 people do that, there's 30. And now it's a competition of not necessarily who's better. It's more like who can sell, who can get more ice. And really, if you think about it, if you haven't played hockey, even if you have a little bit, like who's to say that you even know what a good quality program is? That's the biggest issue. That's what I find right now is like I think a lot of the parents look at volume and getting on the ice for 1 hour or not getting on is better than not getting on the ice for 1 hour. And if I can do that 7 days a week is better than doing it five. That's how a lot of people think about it. So quality doesn't mean anything as long as you're on the ice. Sometimes. So, anyways, as I was doing that, someone approached me with my first opportunity to have my first gym, and I looked and I said, "Yeah, I like that place. We can do that." And we started with that, and thinking that that would be okay. Now you have your off ice, you have your on ice. We can blend that together. Made some mistakes, did some good things, and then that just evolved. So I think having a facility now, there's two sides to it, right? If you have a facility like this one here attached to the arena and our other one that's attached to arenas, it makes sense that you could work out and you can go on the ice with your trainers providing that they're good. It makes sense. You're here and you do it. But a lot of the times it's no different than anything else. It's just like today you're working out and maybe the guy goes in the workout and today goes, okay, we're gonna do squats, this, and there's no real thought to it. Same with the programs on the ice, right? There's no real thought to it. It's like we're not really necessarily working on anything, or we are, but maybe you're good and I'm shit, or I'm good and you're shit. Like it maybe doesn't mean that it's excellent. So there's some that are great, some that are not. It's the same old thing. But the bottom line is that if you can market it and if you can have people believe, and I'm saying this like truthfully, if you can have people believe that you're spending money in the right place, then you're going to get customers.
Yeah.
You know,
And like that, so and then you add those layers to it with the facility and all that other stuff, and then you have to increase prices because now you're paying rent,
well,
now you
100%.
need more staff, you need all
Yeah,
these things. So if you're going to
yeah. With
develop,
with that comes a lot of headaches.
yeah, right,
Because I remember the first time I had my first facility, I gave up. I had a very I'll call it lucrative, and it wasn't like $1 million, but it was like 1 week in Dallas, and it was I didn't have to say the number. They offered me something, and I said, "Well, that's of course I'm coming," but I couldn't because I had a lineup of people at the gym, and I was breaking even at the gym, so I had to give that up. So it's like give and go. So if you in a perfect world, if you can do this thing without any overhead, like as a business person, if you could just run around at the rink and show up and not have the overhead, that'd be the best thing ever. But
yes. So
it's
that,
not the best program though.
right, it's not the best program. It's definitely easier, but then you also it's a constant hustle
Yeah,
to fill your
yeah,
camp,
yeah,
right? Where you get an established facility and you
yeah,
get a little bit of marketing behind it, and
yeah.
then it's like people come to
Yeah, and a
you,
home base,
yeah, right, home
and it
base
looks
and all that.
professional, and it is professional. I
Yeah,
mean, especially if you run it professionally.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So those all those things are it's interesting to see because a lot of people that try to jump in on this, I see it like even this summer. There's like 4 new ones this summer in our area of just kids like kids that